Hey guys, Clove here, and today I have a highly requested video. I was planning on putting something else out that I did a poll on, but this one seemed even more wanted from my recent posts about a project I'm working on. Anyway, so as you can tell in the bottom right hand corner, I have these little mana crystals that are where my bubble should be. So today we're going to be going over how to make these mana crystals, and I will include a resource pack and data pack download in the description, and just to get you started so you can kind of change some things once I show you what the different things mean. But it's a very simple but powerful tool for UI display here. Let's just take a look at all that it can do. So if I step on this, it'll bring me back up to full. If I step on this, it'll take me all the way down to nothing. And it also works in series of half. So it works in half. It has up to 20 values essentially. So you can have half of a value here. Okay, so that's how that thing works. So let's get into how it actually is displayed that way. So you have the key part is a resource pack using a font. So the way this works is you go into your Minecraft. In your resource pack, you have a folder under assets, Minecraft font, and then there's a file called default.json. This file, if you have it, will essentially tell the game different ways to display Unicode characters that aren't assigned already. So what this means is I can tell it the Unicode character using /u, and I could do a Unicode character of 0010, and it'll do delete, okay? But if I do a Unicode character that is above what the game knows, then it will allow me to assign custom ones myself. So you can assign custom ones to E1000 all the way up to FFFF in hexadecimal coding. Hexadecimal coding, each digit has 16 different values, going from 0 to F. So if I play the 0, it'll show a little gem in the chat. If I play 1, it will show half of a gem. If I play 2, it will show the full gem. Okay, so let's go into how you set these up. So you have to call it a bitmap. There's a few different types. Bitmap is what I find the best for this application. Then you tell it the location /file and the file name and file type. So it's an icon and it's a .png file. So if I go into the respective location under textures custom, which is the same here, textures custom. So it assumes that you're already in the textures folder. So then I go to custom. It doesn't have to be the Minecraft namespace. I just do it for this. Then I have icon.png. Icon.png is right here, and it's a picture of a gem. Then you have icon half is a picture of a half gem. Icon off is a picture of no gem. Then there's a couple more stats here. You have ascent, height, and what character it is. So here's E1000, here's E1001, here's E1002. Okay. Now the interesting thing here is height and ascent. So ascent is basically a vertical shift, and it can't be more than the height of the image. So if I pick an ascent of, if my image is 9 by 9, I can try to use ascent to push it down, but that actually won't work because if you put a negative ascent, it will go up. If you put a positive ascent, it will shift it kind of down. It's kind of weird. You can mess with the value of ascent, but it can only be up to whatever the height is. So for that reason, I actually, in order to get this to work, you have to add extra empty space into the top of your image. And that's how you're able to shift the image down. If you wanted to shift it up, you could use the ascent variable, I believe, without having to. I think you can just throw in negative ascent. Otherwise, you could use the shifting principle that I do here. So I have a file here, and I just add empty space to the top. And I usually like to add empty space that's some factor of how big the image is. And then I also like to add 2 little dots in the corner that have an opacity level of 1%. And I didn't do that yet, but I'm going to do that anyways. And the reason I do these 2 little dots, is because people who use Optifine, which is a mod that quite a few people use, the mod for some reason likes to condense pictures. So if your picture has empty space, it will chop all the empty space off. But if you have a 1% alpha pixel, which basically nobody can see in the corners, it can't condense that space because it needs to keep the pixel intact, so it won't chop it off. So that's just like a little thing that you might come across, and that's something important to know. But anyways, so I add a bunch of empty space to the top. So through logic, if you add empty space to the top, it will shift the thing down. And then I can add ascent artificially back in to shift it back up a little bit. So that's kind of my process here. So what I did was I put the character and I kept shifting, adding a negative space until it got all the way to the bottom. And then what essentially I did after that was I added the ascent value back. Like I shifted it until it was just kind of touching or below or like just past where I needed it. And then I used ascent to move it back up a little bit to make it aligned with stuff like the armor. So if I do give at P iron chest plates, this is aligned with the location of the other one. Now, if you wanted to do keep the bubble bar, because the bubble bar actually goes right here, you can shift this thing up again. And by reducing the height, you wouldn't reduce the height value. You would have to reduce the height value and reduce the empty space here. So if you want to change the scale, you can change the height value here. And if I make the height value more or less, if I make it a bigger height value than what the actual image is, it will blow up my picture. If I make the height value less than it actually is, then it will shrink the picture. Just like that. So then the last piece of the puzzle is how do we get them as close together as they're supposed to be? So let me show you what happens if I do this. Like that. You'll see that the two are touching each other. The little edge pixels are touching each other. But in the UI of the official game, they actually overlap. So you can see the hearts actually overlap here. So you can either do that by making your textures, having a texture for one of the edges and another edge that is different, which can be a little bit annoying to work with, or you can use something created by Amber on the MCC Discord known as negative spaces. So in this, I have included her file for negative spaces, which essentially allows you, takes up a ton of your usable fonts. It takes up from F8001 to F830. But what these new fonts allow you to do is shift things to the left. So if I go ahead and add /UF, and I believe it is, ignore how big this is. If I use F802, that shifts it back by 2 pixels, which is essentially going to make them touch each other. If I did FF, then they might even overlap or go off the screen. Let's do F9, and now you can see that they're kind of overlapping in a weird fashion. So once you have the negative spaces and you have the icons to print, all you have to do is put together a telraw, which has 10 of these icons with a negative space between each of the icons except for at the edges, and some additional forward spaces that also use the Amber's pack, which shift it to the right. And then finally, you just need to have a bunch of variations based on what score they have. So if they have a score of 0, you need to display all of the 2 ones. If you have a score of 8, you need to display a certain amount of full ones and half ones, and just have every combination. This is the most efficient way than trying to build it dynamically. And I did it for you here. Anyways, that's just about sums everything up. Go ahead and leave a like if you liked it, and check out the description with all the downloads there. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.